It's day by fucking day, minute by fucking minute. And I also don't believe in all that bullshit of like, yeah, if you're doing what you love doing, you'll never make any money. No, if you're doing what you love doing, you make as much fucking money as you can, so you can keep funding doing that.
Hi, and welcome to A Class of Their Own podcast, revealing the human stories behind their name. We will hear honest and intimate reflections from our guests who, despite their circumstances, shape a world that reflects their unique visions of success. Join me, Miriam Magacha, to learn from these inspirational people and take the first step to make your own change. On today's episode, we're joined by Dave Buonaguidi.
Very good.
I got it right again.
Got it bang on right. It could be a little bit soft on the Buonaguidi. But Buonaguidi, that's fine.
I am so excited to have you back.
I'm slightly nervous.
Ooh. You weren't nervous the first time.
No, I wasn't, but I didn't know any better.
Uh-oh.
But you were quite good at unpicking stuff, and you do that weird look, and then you just ask really sometimes quite difficult questions. Like the first one that you asked last time was,
Who is Dave?
Who is Dave? And I just answered it in the most banal.
So should we go with that with round two?
Oh, God.
Who's Dave?
Who is Dave? I am a very happy person. I've sort of discovered that what I do and what I've strived to do over the last few years has been quite an interesting journey. And I've got to say, throughout, it's not been easy. It's been totally terrifying at times. But now I just don't give so much of a fuck because it's going all right. And I'm very happy. And I've had quite an amazing year, even though it's been probably one of the worst years in the history of mankind outside my little bubble.
Outside of your bubble, yeah.
I think it's just, I don't know whether it's just, I've just kind of found my little cycle, my routine, my vibe. And so I'm just very happy.
But also you've probably surrounded yourself with the right people now. And therefore you're in this place where, people do say, surround yourself with the people you want to be like and around, and because they influence you on a daily basis.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if I've surrounded myself by other people. I mean, in my past life, with myself. Yeah, maybe. I think that's probably closest to the mark, actually, because in my past life, I always made sure I surrounded myself with smarter people than me, which was very easy, I've got to say. And it made life feel a little bit safer. But whereas now, my whole social, I mean, I don't have many friends. I like to have colleagues, but I also like Dave time where I just go home and I sit on the sofa in the dark. And so I don't have very many people I can kind of call close friends that I could massively rely on. But I have lots of colleagues now, a smaller circle of colleagues, and they're people who are much nicer and better for me.
So why are you...
See, I knew you were going to do this.
What?
Because now you go into, that's opened a little drawer in your psychologist's head, and you're now going to come at me with a question that's going to...
I wasn't actually.
Oh, right, okay.
I was going to come at you with now that I am coming at you,
yeah.
I'm going to kind of explore why you chose to come back.
Because I really enjoyed, on sort of lots of different levels, because, when you contacted me, and we talked about it in the first one, you asked, and I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like doing these things in a way, and I especially enjoyed this one because I think often there's often a very masculine, and I don't know if this is the right word, but a masculine purpose for the podcast, which is to sort of talk about how, I don't know, fucking great you are. And, when I love listening to podcasts and I love listening to stories about people doing interesting things.
Yeah.
But when it's just people talking about how clever they are or how great they are, I find it a bit exhausting, I've got to say. And I think that there's a lot of that around.
Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed about our first conversation is that it didn't really feel like that's what it was about, because I like to go in fully unprepared, especially with stuff like this, because we're just talking.
Yep.
And, we asked a lot of questions, and I'll just try and be as honest and as sort of true as possible. And I find that exhilarating, because there's no agenda. There's no, I've got no thing that I want to achieve out of it, but I really enjoy the talking about stuff. And so I just really enjoyed it. And it was just nice that, when we'd been chatting and I'd been suggesting other people that you could talk to.
Yeah.
And I'm just genuinely interested in, you're doing something which is really interesting, and when it works, it's very good for people. It's like it's food.
Yeah.
And I just find that, and we talked about that a lot before and during the last one, was just doing something you love doing. And I like it when people find that, and then they start doing it, and then they start just enjoying it. And so it's really nice to come back and do it again.
Great, because the audience loved you.
Good.
You are our number one performing, so let's see if we can outbid that.
Oh God. Well, it can only get worse.
No, it's going to get better, because we're going to ask you some poignant questions that I've heard about you since.
Oh.
So.
You've done research.
I didn't do any research. It's information.
Where have you been finding all this information out, though?
People share.
Oh, God.
People share.
Go on,
and it's not a huge amount of research. It's just, we were talking way back when, and I was like, how was the podcast? How did it go?
Yeah.
Etc. And you said, it was great. And then we contacted each other, and I was like, happy birthday. Mm-hmm. And you told me you were going on holiday with your lover.
Yes.
In the entire conversation, you didn't mention a lover.
Yeah, I think it's because it's my, and I'm going to sound like a tosser when I say this, but my social media feed it's like the scrapings from the inside of my head. Somebody described it. They said, watching you on Instagram is like watching an old man fall down a metal fire escape and hit every step on the way down.
Ouch!
No, but it's funny. It's actually quite amusing when you see that. And there are sort of certain things that I don't really want to talk about because they're personal to me. And I think one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is that there are some things that you just keep for yourself and makes it a bit more precious. And, I think this morning I was doing a post about sitting on a chair and trapping my toe, which I did yesterday. And that's just me being me. And that's like, I can hear it in my head to, if I was talking to my kids, my son was watching, he watched me do it. But if I was talking to a friend, I would say that. And so I use social media as a sort of single channel
one-way traffic
output. I've got no interest in most other people. So, and this sounds very rude, but I don't look at other people's social media feeds to find out what they're doing. I'm not interested in what you had for lunch or where you're on holiday. I just like looking at funny stuff and then talking about stuff that I find amusing. Now, it just so happens that maybe it resonates with other people. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing on social media. I haven't got a fucking clue. But
it's working.
But it sort of seems to be working. And then, so my personal life is mine. And it's between me and
them,
my girlfriend. And so and I don't really want to involve, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but it's personal to me. And
That's beautiful.
It feels better. Yeah, no, it feels much nicer,
Because it's not with the world.
It's not public.
Share.
Yeah, I don't want to. And maybe I'm also, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I don't really know what happens on social media because I've not, when I've been doing it, very, very rarely have I had haters. And I had one bloke who commented, he said, God, your work, he said, mate, your work is shit. I was like, I don't really know what to respond to that. So I just said, fuck off. And then did a post about it.
And then you created some artwork that says fuck
maybe,
off.
and then
maybe
do that.
Subconsciously,
I just thought,
happened.
I don't like people who come up and slap you for no apparent reason. If you don't like us, just ignore me. I'm not climbing in your house. And so I just think it's like, it's nice to have some things that are just, I'll talk about my mum. My mum's an artist and she's very good, and I talk about her on my social media, so it's fine. But it's like, because of something she's done. But it's
now.
like,
yeah,
I don't think anybody would be interested in. Like, I've gone away with my girlfriend and we had Greek food for lunch. I just think
someone clearly will be. And then the other thing I discovered was that you are, what's the word?
Oh God,
psychic.
How do you find that out?
See?
Well, no, you should
know.
Yeah. No, I don't know psychic, but okay. I had we talked about that accident I had when I was found dead on the stairs.
Right.
As a 14-year-old. And I'd never really talked about it to anybody. I'd never even thought about it. I went back to school after 2 or 3 weeks, a month. And I'd never spoke to my mum. I never spoke to my sister about it. And, my sister was the one who found me, and she was 10. So it was pretty harrowing for her. And my mum was the one who pretty much threatened the ambulance people with, no, he's not fucking dead. You get him going. And she did. And well, they did. And I'd never spoken to them about what happened. And as I got older, and as I hit this kind of respawning moment in my life with my career, where, I had a nice job, in inverted commas. I had a job, and I was in a marriage, and I had a house, and I had a car, and I literally pushed the nuclear button.
Yep.
And eviscerated everything. And I think the more I kind of thought about that and this kind of rebirth moment, I think it triggered something in me that I suddenly thought, hold on a second, mate, you've done this before. And, but when you're 14, you don't know shit from sugar. And I spoke to my mum and my sister. My sister lives in New Zealand. She came over. And I said, so what happened? And we were talking about it. And my mum's very kind of, casual about the whole thing. She said, Serena came in and said she found you on the stairs and you were dead. And I said, what? And they went out and they started screaming and calling the ambulance. And my sister doesn't really like talking about it. But when we were talking about it a couple of years ago, she said, oh, do you remember all of your premonitions? And I was like, no. And she goes, there was like a 6-month period where you would come down in the morning and you go, oh my God, this plane crashed in Peru with 168 people on board. And they go, what? And then 2 days later, a plane would crash that was either very similar or the same. And it just became a thing. She said for about 6 months, you were properly tuned in to weird shit going down and newsworthy. And I started getting it I started thinking about it. And then about 6 to 8 months ago, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd say to my girlfriend, fucking hell, I just had this. So as an example, there was one that I could see some people walking along a stripy building, black and white stripes. And they were walking like a couple, and they had a little kid, and there was all this fire everywhere, and the kid slipped and the man grabbed her, and I kept seeing that. And then about 2 days later, I saw a clip on Sky News of a building in East London that had caught fire, and it had the same stripes. And then also when Trump was shot, I had this is going to make me, I'm going to look so stupid doing this, but I'm going to tell you. So when Trump was shot, I woke up in the morning and told my girlfriend, I said, fucking hell, this weird vision of this man standing in front of this, what looked like a boat, and it had all this bunting. And then he got shot. And we were talking about it, laughing. And then literally she called me up a couple of days later and said, Jesus, you seen Trump's been shot. And then when I saw the picture of him, it wasn't a boat and it wasn't bunting, but it was kind shapes. Of similar sort of stuff. And so wow. I kind of think about it now, but only because of what my sister said, you and your premonitions. But now, so whenever I have these sort of weird things, I kind of write them down now. And then see if they come out.
What's your latest one?
There was one that I had the other day that was not good. It was just, I don't know why. They always sort of seem to be disasters. I don't know if it's a sort of Nostradamus. Remember there was that weird Bulgarian woman that used to predict World Cup results, but then also saying the end of the world's going to happen.
Lottery results.
End of the world's going to happen next Tuesday.
Yeah, lottery results.
But it was really like, good. Lottery results would be amazing. If it was just me scratching some numbers down, I would do it. But unfortunately not. It's always something really dark. And the last one was, maybe it's just a thing with all the stuff that's happening around at the minute. It makes it easier to have a vision of a load of people looking really sad and fire. Because that's happening everywhere.
That's literally
and
everywhere.
And it's very hard to prove that I've had the premonition that will allow that to become reality. But I'm just getting lots of that sort of stuff. And maybe I'm just thinking about that kind of thing a little bit. Don't know.
And maybe you're feeling, and again, I'm not trying to put words or anything in your mouth, but maybe you're feeling guilty for the happiness. And therefore, this is your way of going, actually, the world around me is...
It's not a nice place.
It's not a nice place.
Yeah, and I feel that a lot. And I guess that's also why, I was in that world when I worked on the corporate side where I'd have to leave my values out on the pavement. And even though it was my agency, we had conversations and we had meetings with people that I really walked out of there thinking, I need to shower. And I've always felt it very difficult to understand how we have all of that empathy and integrity and values that we carry around as humans with our friends and our family. And then the minute we go to work, we go, yeah, fuck all that. Let's make some money and fuck a load of people over.
Yeah.
And I just find that really soul destroying. And then I look at what's happening in the world, and I'm just not surprised, because I find it just horrific. And, fucking hell, humans, we've been doing this. We're really good at this. We've been doing it forever.
Destroying.
We love to kill each other. And I just suddenly thought there's very few gifts around. Very few people make it better. And I think so. One of the things that I've always tried to do with my art, and also, when I set up Karma Armor with Naresh, it was like, we're going to do something that's good karma, so that everybody who comes in is safe. Yeah. And the clients that we look after, they feel safe. They feel looked after. It's like providing a decent place, like a little walled city of sanity and niceness.
Yeah.
And to be honest, by the time I left, and I remember when I left, it was not like that at all. And so with me, because I'm not wired like English, I don't know if I'm not English, I'm not Danish, I'm not Italian. I'm kind of a mongrel hybrid of all of those things. And as a result, I don't get the Machiavellian way of the Italians or the slightly snooty English. It's I don't know. So it's just a bit of everything. Just a bit of me. It's just me, right?
Yeah.
And I just find I'm not that bright, so I find it really easy if you can just be honest and straight.
It makes everybody's life much easier.
Makes everybody, they just know what you are. And so I think with the art, with everything that I've tried to do, it's always been to try and make it a little bit better, a little bit more positive. Whether it's art or when you talk to somebody in a car or you shake out, I don't know, you hug a postman, whatever it is, it's like it feels 1%.
What's in store for you next?
Just carry on. I mean, I'm very happy. I just want to keep going.
Do people look at you really strangely when you say, I'm really happy?
Yeah, they do.
And what's the conversations you have with them when they say, when they say anything?
It's funny. I went to an art show last weekend. I was doing some live printing there, and I was talking to a lot of the galleries who I know, and they all had faces like slapped asses. It was like, how's it going? Oh God, it's really shit. And they all looked really sad, and they were like, how are you? Mate, it's great. But it's great because I'm just doing what I want to do. And I've found my beat, and it's good. Sometimes I think that they want to punch me in the face, but I couldn't give a fuck. It's like I've suffered like everybody else suffers. We all suffer. We all suffer on an hour by hour basis. And sometimes, I was talking to my daughter about it the other day, that sometimes there are some people who really enjoy the suffering and turn it into their thing, right? But there's no place for suffering, especially if you're like any of us that have the ability to control that suffering and just get rid of the fucking pain. It's like a splinter in your arse. You'll get some people who turn it into a meme. It'll become a big thing that everybody suffers. And I just think there are some things that are suffering that are proper premiership suffering. You look at what's happening 500-600 miles off our coast. It's all heavy shit. That's suffering. When the trains are delayed because there's a little flood, mate, get over it. Get a helmet and just deal with it. Figure it out. And I think we're in a world now where we love to feel everybody else's pain, and we love to go out and bang our pots and pans to celebrate the hard work. I don't know. It just feels like just fucking get yourself straight and make yourself happy and make yourself content with what you want to do, and that will have a resonating effect with those around you, and then they'll do the same, and then everybody will start to it would just you create your slightly tighter community than we had in the past, maybe when you lived in an area that had a much tighter bonded community that meant something to each other. But I just think the world is so weirdly corrupt and so weirdly overcomplicated. And sometimes we know we shouldn't join in too much. We need to check out of it a little bit.
But I think there is suffering, and I think it's impacting people in a different way than it might have done. I think we are different humans. We live in a different time. I think growing up, we didn't have social media, and I think that plays such an important role in why everyone thinks that my life is shit and everybody else is having fun and is doing the best work, best lives, best everything, because that's what we put out to the world.
Yeah.
And so there is this piece where we need to take back control of how we're feeling rather than just look and actually just stop the social media, take it off our phones, just switch it off for a little while and recalibrate what it is that we want. What are we trying to achieve?
And I think that's exactly it. I think it's rediscovering what your ambition is or what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Because we used to talk to a lot of clients when I worked on the ad side, which was just, you're not just about selling furniture. What's your purpose? Why do you fucking exist? And
to
what
make
would
money?
Well, a lot of it, but also it was. I remember talking to the bloke at IKEA, Ingvar Kamprad, and we did a similar conversation with his people. It wasn't him, but his dream was to create good quality furniture for the many.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, that's not furniture store. That's a political movement, and I found that really interesting. Because I worked with Anita Roddick when she was at the Body Shop, and it was the same thing. It was like, I can create a beauty brand that doesn't poison and hurt rabbits, but also looks after all of its composite parts. So all of the suppliers, I don't drive the price down and destroy them so I can make a nice product. And I just found that, I mean, she hugely influenced me in all of the businesses that I've ever set up, because it was like, you can either be a bastard or you can be missionary. And it's much better to be missionary, because you're just nicer. And it's much nicer to do that, because you'll still come across some tossers, but most of the time you're dealing with people who are kind of, oh God, that was a pleasant experience in business, which is quite nice, right?
It really is. It's nice to work with people who are actually genuine and nice and have a mission that aligns.
And I think that's the ambition and the purpose. When you ask people who just sit on social media, I don't think it doesn't engage in that at all. It's superficial little triggers, and it's like, what's your purpose is a big question.
Yeah.
That when you ask somebody, they look up and you can sort of almost feel the gears turning. And if they're lucky enough to be some of those people that have got a vision of what they think they can do, then it's like, okay, well, now apply a bit of graft and a bit of homework and trigger that ambition to work out how you get to your purpose. And I remember in the corporate world, the ambition was a very simple thing. You started off on no money and you got all the shit jobs, and then you did 10 of those shit jobs quite well, and I'll give you a little all right job. And you do 20 of those all right, and you build up. And in advertising, we had juniors, middleweights, heavyweights, seniors, and it was like there was a progress. But I was like, I want to earn more money next year. My first job, I was getting $4,000 a year.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
It was a long, long time ago. Yeah.
Unless you only worked.
I can't work out if you're being nasty there, but it was a long time ago. Mid-80s.
Lovely.
Mid-80s. So I was on $4,000 a year in my first job. And I remember in my second year trying to buy a flat in the Elephant and Castle, not far from here, actually. And I lied. I got my boss to sign a piece of paper saying I was earning $16,000 a year so I could get a loan, a mortgage. And in those days, they were giving 5 or 6 times your salary. And he went, mate, you're on, I think it was on $8,000 a year. He went,
you're doubling.
You're doubling. You're lying. And I was like, yeah, happens. But I said to him, if I'm not earning
that
$12,000 next year,
then we're in trouble.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be earning $16,000 the following year.
Yeah. So it's only, it's just a moment in time.
But it's like having a kind of, everybody, you should always be thinking about, how do I get better? How do I make more? How do I squeeze more juice out of the orange? How can I make more? And it's not about, sometimes it's money. Some people are driven by money. For me, I think money is vital for me because it's my lifeblood. It means I can make more stuff. And we were talking about it earlier. If I made £1 million, I'm not going to go out and buy a dinosaur egg, a racehorse, and a boat, and then just live it up.
You're actually going to do something.
Get my teeth done. I'm just going to buy more fucking paper and more ink and have a few more months of rent for my studio. And so it's just that I've found what I love, and now I just want to squeeze as much juice out of the orange.
This episode is brought to you by Play for Change. Play for Change brings together leadership coaching, expert facilitation, and builds communities. They help craft real connections, spark learning, and turn play into powerful experiments to enable better relationships with yourself and others around you. To find out more, go to playforchange.co.uk. Links are in the show notes below. One of the reasons why I think the last episode resonated with lots of people in the audience was because you were so honest, you were so candid, you were so real about the struggle. And also, you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, and now you're doing something that you're super passionate about.
Yeah.
You are super happy, and you're living the life that I think lots of people are trying, envious, but without necessarily figuring it out and doing the work that comes before that.
Yeah.
Any advice or guidance on how to do it? Maybe not in the same way as you did, which was just nuclear.
Well, but that was the trigger point. But hell, I'm 60, so I've got lots of experience.
Yeah.
I spent a long, long time advising people on how to get the maximum out of their money and produce work that would sell out their product. That was my job. So when I decided, and I had that epiphany when I walked out of my ad agency, and I had a year where I wasn't allowed to work. I did this workshop at the screen printing place 3 days after I left. Walked in there and just went, wow, this is it. It was like being hit by a train. This is what I should be doing. I like wearing shit clothes. I like being covered in ink. I don't like pretending I'm something. And I'd spent, and we talked about it the first time. I spent a long, long time pretending to be something I wasn't. And it was so stifling and so just so difficult to come to terms with, because and when you're doing it in advertising, you're doing it 9 days a week, 25 hours a day. It's just exhausting. And so suddenly, when I found myself in a studio that year, I felt like, fuck,
you can breathe.
I can breathe, and that's exactly how I describe it, as being able to breathe. But I also had lots of experience in how to be professional, which I found that a lot of the artists that I was hanging around with didn't have an ounce of. So it's like, I'm old school immigrant. It's like when somebody says the meeting's at 9 o'clock, I'll be there at 7 o'clock, just in case the trains are fucked or in case there's an accident. Just be there.
Yeah.
And if you can work it into your day, go and have breakfast, relax, have a cup of tea, coffee, whatever the hell you want, and ease into it.
And you can do that now, whereas before you were just running.
But I've always been like that. And so when I started working with, and there were a couple of moments with certain gallery, like Jealous Gallery, where I created a piece that I think we talked about it the first time. But I remember when I started talking to galleries, the first question I asked, the first question they asked me was, how many followers you got? And I went, what's that got to do with anything? I want to be an artist. How many followers have you got? Got anything to do with it?
Me.
You should be going, show us some of your work. But they were like, oh no, because a lot of galleries, they would rather you come along like you're the finished article. Like, I'm already selling stuff because I've got 100 million followers and they love my work, and I just want to make you a load of money as well.
But why would you need the gallery if that was the case?
Well, that's my point. My thing with the gallery is like, wouldn't it be nice if they saw you and they went, God, you're really interesting, and you're selling those little £50 prints. I reckon what we could do is,
and
we could start
doing
stuff that's like, we could get you to sell for £500 rather than £5. There's only a couple of galleries that I know that are like that. A lot of the others are I've got to be very careful.
Please be
because
careful.
I still work with galleries.
Of course.
And they're an essential part of what I do. But a lot of galleries are quite, they want the easy route, which is they're selling 400 or 500 other artists on the same site.
Yeah.
And they probably make most of their money from 10% of the artists that they sell. And so the first thing I did was I went in there like an ad man and I said, well, after she'd asked me how many followers I said, I've got about, I don't know, 1,000. And she went, well, that's, and then it got onto the work. What kind of work do you do? And I said, well, the first print I did was, I like doing stuff that made you laugh. And I did a print of it was the page of a French dog breed book. There were 2 pages and they had all the little dogs. And I did them all, I printed it bigger and I did them all with tiny erections. I'll send you a copy. I've got one left. And she went, oh, yeah, people like dogs. And then she noticed the erection. She goes, oh, my God, why'd you do that? I said, because it's funny. And she went, no, it's not. It's really disgusting. They've got like little lipsticks poking out. And I said, well, that's kind of what I do. She goes, oh, I don't think there's a place for you here. So I was like, okay. So I said, well, could you do me a favour? Could you show me your top 10 selling artists? Which she did. And I looked at the first 5 and I was like, oh, blimey. And I did it to a few galleries and I was like, oh, I'm not as good as him. I'm not as good as her, not as good as her, not as good as him. Oh, but I think I'm probably better than him. And then that just gave me a little bit of hope that I went, right, I'm on the bottom rung I'm in the dirt under the ladder. And so every year or every 6 months or every month or whatever it is, every time I do a piece of work, every time I come up with an idea and I make it, how do I get more followers? Because if that's the thing that's important, how do I do that? Well, then you start talking about stuff that's important to you that might also be important to other people. And then maybe you start doing work that is reflective of what's happening in the real world.
Yeah.
So make it kind of relevant, because I'd spent my whole life competing with other agencies with huge advertising budgets. All the places I ever worked in were really small and kind of slightly guerrilla. And you had tiny budgets. You had to make the work resonate in a different way. And I don't understand why so much art is very passive. It's just like, you know, the artist will sit and go, I like to do drawings of trees with birds. But if people don't like trees and birds, what are you doing?
Nobody's buying them, yeah.
If nobody's buying them, and no gallery's going to, if nobody's buying them, no gallery's going to take you on. So there suddenly becomes a big question that you've got to ask yourself is, am I fucking doing the right thing? First, I'm highly commercial. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
So I said, right, show me your top 10 selling artists. And then I did some more research and I looked at what everybody else was doing. And it was just like, right, okay, well, I think I'm all right. I can do this. And then I started to come up with my own ideas and start making them. And I was awful, couldn't do anything. So practice, keep making stuff, learn how to do it. And then sort of, I think the screen printing thing happened with the maps, but you know, it's a bit of a cheat. You start with the map. It's already one of the most emotional bits of paper you're ever likely to pick up. And then it was like, okay, how do you make it relevant? Well, you put, I fucking love this place on it. And it's like, it's not rocket science, but
it is.
It is, because it's 35 years experience of a business that you did that with the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You know, my thing is, and especially with artists, is if you want to make, and like I said, money is really important. And a lot of artists try and make out that it's not important, but it is important for two reasons. One, it keeps you alive.
It gives you the freedom. Not
only physically, nutritionally, but it also gives you the freedom and it gives you the ambition, because it's the 3 parts of, you know, where you are, what you could be and where you want to be, and how you shorten that journey, because you know, it's just you should be constantly moving and evolving. And the only way you're going to do that is by doing more work, fucking up more, having some moments of success where you blip and then you drop and you blip and then you climb and then you blip. It's like any career.
Yeah.
And it's just that thing of understanding, looking at the market. This is what people like. This is what you do, or this is what I do. How do you get those two to sit? It's like a bacon and egg sandwich.
How do they come together?
Because it's only good when it's both.
Yep.
Now, if you're one of those artists that are really lucky and you've got loads of money and you don't have to make any money, then
great.
Have fun. Great. Good on you. But I've got to make money. I've got rent to pay. I've got kids to feed, and it's like, and a massive cocaine habit.
No, that you didn't
share.
No,
I haven't. I didn't share that last time.
No.
I've been off it for, I've never touched. You know what? I've never touched it.
You told me that.
Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
That's my one claim to fame in advertising. Never
It's
touched.
actually quite a big claim to fame.
It's massive. Massive. I bet there were people in Bolivia and Colombia who were sitting there going, my God, we've got this industry completely sewn up. Millions and millions of users. There's this one bloke.
That just won't.
He won't touch it. Anyway, but it's, I think it's just that thing of, for me, looking at, because that's what we did. You did strategic planning on your clients. This is what they want to hear. It's like, well, interesting example. You look at that new Jaguar ad. What the fuck is going on?
They're not stupid, though. They're
not stupid. I'm intrigued to see what happens next.
Yeah.
But I think I've got a funny feeling it's all going to come down in flames. I don't know. It's just, it feels very, very, it's a very, very weird approach. Now, I do like weird.
But even you haven't worked it out yet.
I haven't worked it out, but I've been out of that game for a long time and I've chosen to opt out of all communication because I just don't get it anymore. But I'm intrigued. But it's like, when you're selling to, the whole point of a car manufacturer is you should be selling to lots and lots of people. If you want to sell it to 8 people,
great.
Brilliant. Well done, mate. You've cracked it. But if you want to sell millions of fucking cars, which I think Jaguar do, I mean, I'm no expert. I don't know behind the scenes, but I would assume because it's a product that you want to sell a lot of them, then maybe show a car or show the car, but I'm sure there's a big reveal coming up. I'm sure of that. But it's like, this is what people want.
And how do
Give
you
them what they want with a twist. Give them something that they want with a twist that's intriguing and engaging.
How do you figure it out? So I'm 55. I've done this thing my whole life. I'm not enjoying it. Let's just say my personal life is great, but my work life...
Who are you talking about? You're talking about me now?
No, I'm talking about another
somebody
person.
Else. Right, somebody else. Sorry.
How do I figure it out? How do I actually figure out what my calling was?
Well, that's down to the individual, I think. I mean, I think everybody, and I do this game when I talk to people, especially younger people, and I go, what do you want to do? We had a couple of kids in the other day who were like 9 and 10, really funny, scruffy little kid. And I said, before we even start, they were in with a dad who was looking after them with his kid. And I said, right, you two, you stop. I like to intimidate children because they're so much easier to intimidate than adults. I said, what do you want to do when you're older? And he went, I don't know. I said, what about you? And he went, I don't know. I said, well, I'm going to come back and I'll ask you the same question in 15 minutes and I want you to tell me. And then both of them were like, I don't know. And then 15 minutes later, I said, right, stop what you're doing. What do you want to do? He said, I want to be a rock star. I said, where the fuck did that come from? You want to be a rock star? Rock star? In a band? No one does that. I went, what about you? You don't want to be a photographer? 9 and 10 years old. And I love that because, I mean, all boys want to be footballers and all girls want to be, nurses or vets or, there's a kind of traditional career path. But I think I love doing that. And I love doing that with people as well, older people, because I know every fucker out there has got something that they really want to do. Now, I only discovered mine, when I got into advertising, I thought it was a creative business and I needed a job, even if it was only $4,000 a year. But no one taught me at art school how to get a job and what career path you should go on. No one tells you that. They tell you how to make pretty pictures at art school or design things nicely with a ruler. No one helps you or guides you as a mentor. And then obviously as you hit a career, as you get into a business, you get a career, you either get booted out because you're no good, and if you're good enough, you survive and you carry on and you get sort of mentored and
maybe if you're lucky,
checked a little bit and helped and then booted out, and it's everybody has gone through that path. And the thing that I just find fascinating is everybody has got something that they love doing. And it's and I call it the Columbus moment. There's a moment when Columbus got out of Genoa harbour and got 1 degree out at the harbour and ended up in a completely different continent. And that's where we end up. I was in advertising for a long time because I thought it was a creative business. And, we talked about it a lot, I think, first time around, 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. You have different agendas and you have different approaches to what you need states. And I don't know, I think everybody has got something magical that they would love to fucking do. Now, wouldn't it be nice if that magical thing that you would love to fucking do more than anything is the thing that you turn into your career?
And you're passionate about, and you have the energy to do it.
And everybody has got it. Yeah. Everybody has got it. Your thing, I don't think, and I'm no doctor, I'm no expert, I don't think it's the concept of a podcast. I think what you're really good at is enabling and envisioning things and inspiring people. Because if you were to think about how many people have listened to all the podcasts you've done, with all the amazing people you've had on, was it like 55 now you've done?
Yep.
How many people, if one person out of the many thousands, hundreds of thousands probably, that have listened to those podcasts, got off their arse the day after they listened to it and changed the direction of their life by 1 or 2 degrees,
they'd be in a completely different place.
It's all
already.
worth it. They'd be in a completely different place. And that's the thing that I find incredible because, I went through the nuclear button reaction to my life, and I've got to say it was the most horrific few years of my life on every level. And then also I think back to, I was 14, I got switched off, got turned off, got rebooted.
Yeah.
And so it kind of now means more to me now as a 60-year-old than it did when I was 14 because I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And now I'm so annoyed because I'm 60 and I have this thing where I always talk about, like, you get 80 summers. I might have to address that because I'm getting close to that. And I always fear that the last 10 are going to be a bit suspect. So I've got 10 summers.
No.
I know I say that myself, but it's a bit... The other one I use a lot is like life is like a tube of Pringles. When you first open the Pringles and you're doing 5 at a time, smash, smash, smash. And then when you get your fat hand get stuck in the tube and you're picking them out by 1 at a time. And then you're in the bit at the bottom, the dust and the shrapnel, and you enjoy them for what they are. And then you sort of sit there and think, God, I really wish I'd enjoyed those first 30 as much as I'm enjoying the last 5. And that's why I'm very happy, because
that's actually quite a scary and morbid thought.
Well, it's not morbid; it's a reality. I mean,
it is a reality.
The sad thing is, and I think what happens, certainly that I've seen it, and I think the word that I hate is midlife crisis, because
I've had plenty, according to friends.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I've had plenty of midlife crisis.
Well, I think crisis is the wrong word. I think it's midlife realization.
Yes.
Because what happens is, you get to midlife. Now, if that's 40 to 55, I guess, you've had kids and you've gone through all the drama of bringing up kids and all of the hand-holding that you need, and you've thrown them out of the nest or they've jumped. And so you're kind of free emotionally from the rigors of parenting, motherhood and fatherhood. And you might have a serious job and you're kind of, steady. And then this thing happens when you hit 45, 50, your parents start getting really old or die. And you look at them and you go, oh my God, wow.
When did that happen?
And then you look at friends of yours that you haven't seen for a long time and they start looking really old. And you go, fuck, that's me. They're looking at me. I know that when they walked away, when we saw each other in the street, the woman said, fuck, he's let himself go. Happens. And then your friends start dying. Like now, every time I get a phone call, there's about 3 blokes that when they come up on my phone, I literally pick it up and go, who died? But it's happened. It's life.
It's starting
it's
to
life.
Happen, yeah.
And maybe I can be less, maybe just a little bit more, I don't know, nonplussed about it, because it happened to me. I don't know anything about it, but it happened to me. It had a massive effect on the people that I love, my family. Didn't have any effect on me. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
But I feel very bad when I see other people who are going through the same thing and have experienced that, and everybody experiences it, and we're all going to get hit by that train.
Yeah, we will.
And so
that's the one thing we can't change.
That's the one thing we can't change. That and tax. Yes. Business rates is my big bugbear at the minute, but we'll talk about that. There's death and business rates. But so I think a lot of it is just, mate, how long do you want to keep running away from what you could and should be doing? And mine just happens to be being creative. Now, I thought being creative was going to be satisfied by the job I did, but it wasn't really. And now I find the job I do as a creative person, and whether you call me a printmaker or an artist or whatever, I've heard lots of different comments and I get lots of different descriptions of what I do. Just make shit. I'm a manufacturer of stuff. And it makes me feel very good about doing what I do because other people seem to like it as much as me, and then that makes me feel good. It's a very simple circle of life. Do
you put it as a job, or do you think it's now you? It's part of who you are?
Oh, it's totally my job. I mean, I live probably 200 meters away from where I work. And I go in every morning at 9 o'clock, and I go home every night at 7:30, 8 o'clock when I've finished. And sometimes I'll sit and watch a bit of telly at the end of it. And sometimes if I'm not even doing anything, I'll still go into the studio and feel it, because that's my studio. I want to keep my home and my studio separate. I don't want to have all of that shit that I've got in the studio in my house. But, my brain's still in the house, and that's part of the problem. But, yeah, the studio is my home. And so that is my job. And I think that's the thing that having had 35 years of, if I went into my office late, got fired. If I didn't do what was required, if the brief said, you're talking to women, say this, and I did the opposite, I'll get fired. If I fucked up, if I was rude, if I didn't do what was required, I got fired. And the ambition of every year, I don't want to be on $4,000 next year. I've got to be on 16 just to pay my mortgage. So it's to play the game. Do what's required. If you don't want to do it, fuck off. But if you do, you've got to learn to deal with it. And so I just applied that to my job now as a printmaker artist, is that do the right thing. And it makes life very easy, because when you work with galleries and you turn up on time, God, it's quite useful. They actually like you for that.
Yeah. The simple things in
when
life.
You do, call me old-fashioned. It's not that much of a struggle. But if you're not interested in doing that, if you want to turn up late, then I don't want to work with you. I've fired people in my old job for doing drugs. I've fired people for stealing. I've fired people for being late. I've fired people for being useless. Fantastic feeling, because you can't have people like that in your organization, because the minute you do, everybody else looks around and goes,
that's okay.
What are they doing? It's okay. Get away with it. And I don't know. I know you did your research. I don't know if you spoke to anybody that used to work with me, but I never tried to be a bastard, but I had a job to do.
Yeah.
And part of my job was to do the job for everybody else.
Protect everybody as well.
Yeah, exactly. And protect myself more than anything. And so I really like having that experience that I can then apply to my new job, which is just, if you're going to be good, and I don't want to be average, like I said, when I started, I was in the dirt at the bottom of the ladder. And every time I did a piece of work, I sort of see it like an imaginary ladder. And if I do a good piece, maybe it goes two rungs up the ladder. And if I fucking do something bad, don't talk about it. Don't share that on social media, but you feel like you've gone down one. And if I miss a deadline, or so it's up and down. But it has to always be upwardly mobile. And, when I look at galleries that I work with, the first thing I'm thinking of is, right, with Jealous, they've got the first division that's got all of the top people that they work with. And then they've got the second division that are the really good people they work with. And then they got all the other ones. And I was in all the other ones. And so my ambition was, right, how do I get into that middle division?
Yeah.
I'm never going to make to the top division. But my thing is, like, you have to have something
to drive you. And
that's your purpose. Yeah. What's the bloody point? Otherwise, what's the point? You might as well just sit at home and eat baked beans all day.
It would be very pleasant. But you could.
You wouldn't, but yeah.
Would you ever write your story?
I've written my story. Well, I've got two books. One is called Blah, 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 which is
your advertising world.
Which is the sort of the advertising world, and then the transition into this. And then I wrote another excellent book called We're Shit and We Know We Are, which is a year in the London Table Tennis League. You can't find it anywhere.
What?
It's a long story.
I was like, I'm sure I haven't seen that one.
You won't have seen it,
okay.
But I'll send you a PDF of it because it doesn't exist. I only printed 1,000 of them. And I used to give them away to people on the top deck of the bus. I'd sit on the bus with copies of them. And as I was getting off, I'd drop them on their laps. It was a book, God. When I left Channel 4 to set up Karma Armour, my bosses said, oh, you're setting up your own business. Would you like something like a photocopier or something that's useful to the business? I said, you know what? Table tennis table. And they just thought, idiot. So they got us a table tennis table. And me and the bloke I set it up with, Narish, he was very keen on table tennis. And then when I got married, my brother-in-law used to play table tennis for England juniors.
Okay.
And he went, oh, you play table tennis? You should join the league. And I went, well, advertising league? And he went, no, table tennis league. So we joined the London Table Tennis League, which is all full of people who are good at table tennis. Table tennis is one of those things that if you've ever played it on a French campsite, you think, yeah, I'm quite good. The minute you come up against somebody who knows how to play table tennis, you fucking destroy you.
Yep.
And we had a year in the league where I would write match reports against the people we played against. I'll send it to you. We'd lost every single game. It took us a year. Some bloke said, you lot are absolutely useless. It'll take you a year before you win your first game. And he was right.
Wow.
It's not a great book, but it's very funny, I think. But I'd say that because I wrote it.
But I mean, in terms of the life lessons you've learnt, where you are, and how to just unapologetically be you.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, oddly enough, I was thinking of writing another book called Eat All of the Cake, which is kind of pretty much what we're talking about, which is there's a cake there, just sitting right there.
Take it all. And
we all sit there and go, I'll just have a little bit of it. And what you got to do is you got to try and stick every single bit of it in your mouth. And that's what I mean about, squeeze all the juice out of the orange. The train is coming. We're running out of time. Pringles, 80 summers. You keep getting that into your head. It's like, it's day by fucking day, minute by fucking minute. And every day that you're not doing what you really want to do, that is going to make your life so much better. And I also don't believe in all that bullshit of like, yeah. If you're doing what you love doing, you'll never make any money. No. If you're doing what you love doing, you make as much fucking money as you can so you can keep funding doing
the rest
that.
Of it.
And especially if it's a positive purpose. If you're doing something that makes a lot of other people feel really good, then you make as much fucking money as you can and you keep doing that because that right now, that's what we all could do with. And this book called Eat All of the Cake, but every time I sit down and write it, my son turns up and we put Castle on and we sit and watch a bit of that.
How old's your son?
18.
Oh.
Bosco.
What's the advice you give your kids right now?
Interesting. So my daughter, who is 20...
Because they're at that really...
at that age where they don't give a fuck about me.
No, but
I liked them when they were like 6 and 7, when they used to cry when you came home from work and they go, Daddy! And they come running out. I liked that. Now, I just get phone calls. I mean, they don't answer the phone unless they want something. But that's, everybody, I was like that. Worse, probably.
Yeah.
But interestingly, my daughter had an issue recently where something went wrong with her car. And I said, welcome to life. Welcome to life. She goes, fucking hell, I've got to spend all this money on getting the car fixed. And I said, yeah, but you were working for me. And I think she was calling me up to try and get me to pay for it. I said, well, you were working for me. So that money you earned off me, and quite a lot of money, what are you going to do with that? And she goes, I don't want to spend that. And I said, but that's not how life works. What you do is you got a job. You get paid £1,000 a month, whatever it is, 500 quid a month. Some of it you spend on rent because you've got to have a house. But you don't have to pay rent because I pay your college rent. And sometimes you can spend it on nice things, like you can go on Vinted, or you can go to the shops and you can buy something nice, or some nice aromatherapy, or go and get some nice food with your mates. And other times you got to pay for your fucking car to get fixed. She was like, well, I don't want to do that. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go halves on you. So she did the other half. And I said, and it became quite a big problem because somebody had done something and they said they'd done it and then they hadn't done it. I just said, listen, you just deal with the problem. Find the first problem that is there, deal with it, get it out, pull the thorn out of your leg, stop moaning, pull it out, patch it and get on with it. Just deal with the problem as quickly as you can. And I think that that's the thing that with the world right now, there are so many things that are going on. You know, I live in fear of what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, China. I mean, everything on my doorstep. You know, people getting stabbed everywhere. I mean, it's like it's relentless.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of I'm sure there's an agenda from somebody that likes to keep everybody on their toes. And it's very difficult to sometimes sort of push yourself away from that because everybody feels it. But I just think sometimes, you know, don't let the things that you can deal with, get your fucking suspension fixed. Get a new battery for your car. 80 quid. Sometimes just chuck a bit of money at the problem and it goes away. And then you can worry about other stuff because there's guaranteed in life, there is a steady stream of other shit coming your way that you just got to deal with. And when you're 60 and you've been through all that kind of stuff.
You've seen it many a day.
I've experienced it 1,000 times. And so maybe now I'm just in that fuck it era where I'm okay because I've got money in the bank. That means if I do have a big problem, that I can sort of solve it. You know, I'm not an 18-year-old girl or 20-year-old girl that's car batteries break down. And she's got money in the bank. She just doesn't want to spend it.
Yeah, she wants to do other things with it.
Yeah, it's nice to spend it on nice stuff, but sometimes you got to spend it on shit stuff just to allow yourself the nice stuff. And it will taste sweeter next month when you don't have to buy a new battery.
Yeah.
And so I love it. I love it when my kids come into the studio. So my daughter works during the holidays. She comes in and works in the gallery, in the studio. And we call her the general because she just comes down and boots us around and tells us what to do the whole time. But she's very, very good at that kind of, what the fuck are you two doing? I said, we're just having a cup of tea and watching telly. And she's like, well, you need to do this and we need to do that. And she's really, really good at that. And I love, because I don't live with them, but I love having them near me because when I got divorced, I didn't see them. I mean, I saw them, but I wasn't in the same house. You know, I loved the sound of my son peeing in the morning because it would go on for hours. And I loved sitting in bed, listening to him. And I just thought, I'm good. He's my son. He's down there. He's having a pee and I can hear it. And I didn't experience that for, 4 or 5 years. Whereas now they're adults, it's like he's in there today. And, he's setting up his own thing. He's trying to do his own thing and I'm helping him and I'm talking to him and we sit down and we chat. So the relationship I have with him isn't like a dad anymore. And I never was a very paternal dad. I always like messing around with them. But now it's much more like a colleague and like you're in the studio and let's just talk about shit. And, we just have fun and we eat together and so all the life lessons that I've experienced, we just talk about it actually. And it just...
Is it really open and dynamic conversations?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's really easy because they're great. I mean, I love my kids and it's really nice to sort of spend time and to be... Because I missed out on that bit. I left when they were 14 and it's quite an important part of their growing up. And it wasn't easy. It was very difficult. And now that they're 18 and 20 or 19 and 20, it sort of feels like I'm no longer their dad. I mean, they're still their dad, but...
You're definitely their dad when they need the cash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, when I employ them, I pay them. It's like I've gone past that thing of like when I worked for my dad, it was like...
It was free
you come
forever.
and work for me and otherwise I'm going to get a smack. Yeah. But, I like to get them to understand that if you want stuff, come in and earn it. He could make a lot more money if he came in before 12 o'clock. I'll tell him, if you want to come in at 9:30, you'll make twice as much money.
For the day.
He's like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
and
the maths doesn't
still
quite
comes
work
in
still.
at 1 o'clock. But you know what? I'm just pleased. He's really useful. Last night we were doing glitter. He's very functional, whereas my daughter is very kind of like organisational, which is much more dangerous.
How do we end today?
I don't know. I think we end it on. We've talked about this a lot. I think that if it's purpose, just think that what you do and what I really enjoy about our conversations, and I say they're conversations, I don't even think of it as a podcast. I think it's just an overheard conversation.
Yeah.
Is that hopefully 5 or 6 people, wouldn't it be nice if it was 5 or 6? I mean, I used to, when I worked in advertising, I knew what the chances are of a kind of positive reaction to anything I put out. Or even when I do art fairs, I know that I've got my little stall, I've got all my shit on the wall. I know that I need 1,000 people to come past. Maybe 500 will look. Maybe 200 will step closer and have a little peek. Maybe 50 will come and have a conversation. Maybe 10 will engage with something. Maybe 3 will buy something. So it's like the law of averages. You need 1,000 people to get 3 sales.
Wow.
It's like blanket, but like ads. We'll put the ads on centre break of, celebrity. I'm a celebrity. You know that if they haven't all jumped out to have a pee or go and make a cup of tea, that you've got potentially an audience of, I don't know, like 3 million people who are watching. Yeah. But that's what I find really powerful about this sort of thing and what you're doing is that it's very engaging. And I say that, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I think, when I listen to a lot of podcasts, it does become a little bit of a navel-gazing exercise about how great you are. And I think for me, it becomes much more interesting when, those great people are 1 in a billion. Normal people who go through all the shit that we go through, all the shit that I have gone through and I'm going through and I've experienced and I've seen, that's normal.
Yep.
There's nothing special. And I just think sometimes that cutting through the kind of navel-gazy bullshit about how fucking clever you are, and being quite reflective of what reality is and what people are feeling, and understanding that I think everybody sort of feels that all their problems are unique, and they're not. There's lots of people who go through and have been through and experienced and have got through that sort of shit. And I think the good ending would be if you turned around and said, you know what, I'll take a little bit of time off and I'm going to look at what I've done, and I'm going to next year in spring, I'm going to put together a series of events where I get themes about stuff, and we're going to talk about stuff to people who might want to hear it and interact with it. Because I think you're very good at asking very, very good questions that get under the skin of stuff. And certainly when we did the first one, I had so many people commenting, saying thank you very much, and I'm going through the same thing. Lots and lots of reflection, which really made me feel good. And a lot of people saying, you know what, I listened to that, and now I'm going to fucking do it.
And wouldn't it be amazing if...
God, it makes the hair on my arms stand up when I hear that. When I get people saying, I've just got you a print and I put it in a frame and it's on my wall and they send me a picture and I just go, my God, it just feels great. That's my job. That's my purpose, is to make you feel good. Now, when I get that, when I had all those comments from the first podcast, it almost brought me to tears sometimes when you get people talking about, this has happened, that's happened. There's a woman the other day, I mean, fucking hell, she'd had horrific life. And I've got a print that's on sale at the minute, available in some gallery, a gallery called Clarendon. But it's a big print of the moon, just says dreams come true. And it's in diamond dust. And she said, you know what, I've been homeless, I've had this, I've had all of these issues. And this is the first print that I've ever bought. Killed me. And we had a conversation about it because I just said, you don't know how much that means to me because, to do a print that is that empathetic and reflective of your moment is very powerful. And it was really important to me because then it makes me feel like I've done that's part of my purpose.
Yeah.
And so I just think that, it would be really good to sort of see, maybe there's a way of doing it that, doing stuff where you can interact and people can talk and make it a group, have 2 or 3 people on the stage. You're so good at this. And the ability to sort of just make the conversation, because sometimes podcasts is about the podcaster. And the patsies are there to make him look really intelligent and informed. And sometimes, this is a very, very different way of doing it. And I think it's and this is the wrong word, but I find that sometimes podcasts can be very male and celebrate masculine
terms of energy.
In energy, exactly.
Yep.
And I think this is very female. And I think if we ever needed a female thing, and the female energy, you know, supportive, mentoring, understanding, missionary, is now. Because you look at all the fucking shit we're going through on our doorstep. It's all the last farty bits of the male thing that's been going on for generations, for millions of years. And I don't know if there's a way through it, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, to be honest. But I think individually, you can tweak those little moments. You can fix one person, 1%, 2%, 20%. There'll be conversations that people listen to that will affect them 50%. You know, get out of a shit relationship, like Tracy, you know.
Yeah. Change
your job. Tell your boss to fuck off and do what you really want to do. Find that thing that you want to do and start the progress, because it's not an easy progress, but it's a progress. Do your homework. Do some work. Create, learn, fail, learn, keep going. Still do it while you've got your other job. And then just when you want to do it, you jump off the bus and start another journey. But it's, I just think that that's such a brilliant thing. And you've got such a brilliant thing. And you've got an engaging audience and an audience who aren't just interested in listening to stories. They're interested in, I think, watering the seed that's already inside them.
Yeah. So learning and growing, but taking that leap.
Yeah. And sometimes you listen to somebody else who's taking that leap. It's a lot easier than taking it yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
But every conversation I found helps you take that leap or get ready for that leap.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that little bit more courage. It gives you that little bit more oomph, or go, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It's this. And maybe I just need to practice, and maybe I need to experiment and play and just see.
Well, but, you know, you're on one of the rungs on the ladder.
Yeah.
You're not in the dirt. You're not through the clouds. We don't know where that leads. We never know. But this is your journey. And I just think that, again, it's like, there are very few purposes. And I worked in a business for a long time, and I probably met, I would say, Anita Roddick, absolutely purpose-driven business. Changed people's lives absolutely on every level for the better, whether it was the cream, the price, or the interaction she had with her suppliers. Everybody was better as a result of meeting her. Ingvar Kamprad, who IKEA, I think he started off he's an entrepreneur. You know, he started off, I think he discovered his purpose quite, you know, I want to give high design to the many. But, you know, he did it on such a scale that was probably a little bit weird. But individually, we can all do that.
Yeah.
We can all do that. We all do it with our kids, and we all do it with our friends.
We just need to do it with ourselves.
Often it's do it with ourselves and understand the impact that has on your close, but also on yourself. Because I fucking hated myself for a long time. I didn't understand myself. I wasn't ever talked to about myself. Nobody ever sat down and gave me the time of day to sort of go, mate. No one ever did. Because when you're in business, you're always working, and then you sort of manipulate yourself into a mold that you think, this is my job.
This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This should be how I feel.
And it only took me until I was, and the analogy I use is I was standing in a burning building. You know, I was 50. I was standing in a building that was on fire. Couldn't see the floor. Didn't know what floor I was on. And you got two options. You either stand and burn, or you jump out of the window. And a lot of people said to me, God, you're so brave doing that. You know, you must have made so much money in advertising. No, I didn't. I lost all of my money in advertising. I made some, and I didn't spend it on cocaine and parties. I mean, I paid off my mortgage because I was clever with my salary, but I didn't have a big payout. I jumped out the window for self-preservation.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. You know, there's no bones about it. I was absolutely shitting myself. But I knew it was the only thing I could do, because if I stayed in the burning building, that was it. It was over. And you go through the smoke, and the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to break your legs, which I didn't. Landed, struggled through, get the dust off the put the fire in your hair out.
And then
you keep going. Get on with it. Let the scars heal and fucking just keep going in the general direction of sunlight.
I loved our conversation.
Good. So do I.
So thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
And let's see what the stats do.
Let's see.
It's going to be better.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Let's put a bet on it.
Right.
I bet you 50 quid that it won't be as good as the first one.
Oh.
I'm giving you a free pass.
All right.
50
Let's
quid.
see.
50 quid. Yep. Or a print of your choice.
Oh. A print of my choice.
But I can't do Dreams Come True because that's exclusive to a gallery and I don't have any of those. But
that's beautiful.
Print of your choice. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
If you enjoyed that conversation, please share A Class of Their Own podcast with your friends and family. Subscribe, follow and like. It really helps us continue to grow. Keep being you through connection, learning and play. You are a class of your own.